On the left, you can see the aftermath of tornado in Mayfield, Kentucky, a small city with a population of 10,000. The city lies in ruins, but we can see that even such an incredibly powerful climatic phenomenon has not taken anything with it. Household items, plumbing, floors, and roofs are heavily damaged, yet they still remain where they've been before the accident. On the right is a devastated and desolated scenery that the Azerbaijani army discovered after the liberation of these lands from Armenian occupation as a result of the 44-day war in 2020. This apocalyptic footage shows the ruins of the once blossoming city of Agdam, which has been destroyed and left uninhabited for over 25 years. The world media calls Agdam the Caucasian Hiroshima and the Ghost City. Houses of expelled Azerbaijanis had been literally taken to pieces, brick by brick. Invaders had taken away absolutely everything they could break down, including toilet bowls, sinks, stoves, pipes, water taps, doors, eaves, window frames, brackets, fittings, exterior and interior walls, roofs, floors, stairs and rafters. Please note that in Mayfield, the fragments of destroyed walls and roofs lie right on the scene of the accident. Floors and household items remain intact in many of the damaged buildings. The tornado didn't take anything with it. But we can see exactly the opposite on the lands previously occupied by the Armenian army. The only thing left from the houses of Azerbaijanis are foundations of buildings and ruins of bearing walls. Unlike the Mayfield tornado, Armenians took with them everything they could uproot, chop off, and take to pieces. It's clear that it's not an aftermath of combat operations, but a perfect example of the present-day barbarism. Barbarism that cannot be compared with the brutal acts of ISIS militants. This is even worse than the famous destruction of Carthage by Romans. But while Carthage was a city, the Armenian occupation of Azerbaijani lands affected more than 300 settlements on a total area of more than 10,000 square kilometers, which is roughly the size of the present-day Lebanon. This is the destroyed city of Fuzuli. This is Jabrail. This is Zengilan. This is Gubadli. This is Lachin. This is Kelbajar. Look what they've done to the city of Shusha, which had long been known as the Pearl of Karabakh. And this is how the Azerbaijani cultural monuments in Karabakh look today. From 90 to 95% of historical and cultural monuments of Azerbaijan have been destroyed. 63 of 67 mosques have been destroyed and used as cattle pens. Cemeteries have been desecrated. When they killed or expelled the living humans, they continued the war against the dead. They dug out the graves. What a shameful act of savagery that even the cruelest medieval invaders could have not imagined. Natural habitat of the occupied territories had been largely damaged too, including the pollution of rivers, like the Okchuchai River, deforestation of forests, trampling of pastures, and so on. Nevertheless, we see UNESCO demonstrating a total indifference to these events, although the organization have condemned the destruction of giant statues of Buddha in the Bamiyan Valley of Afghanistan in 2001, as well as the destruction of the Syrian city of Palmyra in 2015. Yet UNESCO remains silent about the annihilated cultural and historical heritage of Azerbaijan. Back in May 1994, with the end of the First Karabakh War, Azerbaijan saw tens of thousands of its citizens killed, wounded, and taken hostage. About 750,000 Azerbaijani civilians were expelled from their lands after the Armenian occupation. As of September 2020, there were more than 1 million of people recognized as refugees. A whole generation of Azerbaijanis died during this period, while a new generation of Azerbaijanis grew up far from their home. It will be impossible to estimate the psychological trauma caused by these events, but it was truly enormous. Now, these people gradually returned to native lands. However, a group of French senators believed they should not return home. They made a statement which was included in the resolution voted by the French Senate on November 25, 2020. The document calls for the immediate withdrawal of the Azerbaijani army from the so-called Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, deployment of an international military contingent there, and restoration of borders as they were defined back in 1994. In other words, senators representing a country which is granted a mandate to be a mediator in the long-standing conflict actually suggest leaving everything as is. Like this. And like this. Like this. This is a smart village being developed by Azerbaijan in the village of Agalı of the Zengilan district. 200 private houses in the village and a school equipped with tools necessary for distance education will use alternative energy produced locally. Yet the French senators demanded the redeployment of Armenian troops in the conflict zone to prevent the return of all the Azerbaijani refugees to native lands, and to leave everything destroyed and desecrated for years to come. It's interesting that the claim of French lawmakers is in conflict with the 4 resolutions of the UN Security Council, calling for the withdrawal of Armenian troops from Azerbaijan. We'll remind you that France, as a permanent member of the Council, voted for the document. Another Frenchman, Eric Zemmour, running for president in the upcoming 2022 elections in France, visited Armenia in December 2021 and made a statement there, calling for the defense of this Christian country, hardly maneuvering in the midst of Islamic Ocean. But how relevant is Monsieur Zemmour's call other than putting Christians against Muslims? After all, the factual evidence presented to you in this video is not about a Christian-Muslim confrontation, but a modern act of barbarism. All these savage acts of terror have been committed by those whom a deputy editor-in-chief of Le Figaro, Jean-Christophe Buzon, described in his December 2021 interview as follows. Quote, "I don't know a nation less militaristic, less aggressive, and less imperialist than Armenians." End of quote. Does documentary evidence mean nothing anymore? It's these people, whom the French journalist describes as absolutely non-aggressive, that occupied 20% of the Azerbaijani territory 30 years ago, ousted 750,000 Azerbaijani civilians, committed a genocide in Khojaly, desecrated cemeteries, and had systematically erased any traces of Azerbaijani existence in Karabakh. Azerbaijan liberated its lands in the autumn of 2020, with the civilian population now returning to these lands. But they still accuse Baku of allegedly showing aggression and attacking Armenia. Does it ever sound logical? We're indeed curious of what the political and moral views of these French senators are, as they voted for the resolution urging that Armenian troops be returned to the previous zone of confrontation. We interpret this act as nothing more but a call to reoccupy Azerbaijani lands, which was condemned by the international community. This is a call to prevent the rehabilitation of Azerbaijani cities and villages, to prevent the return of civilian population to this territory. This is a call to do nothing but wait until the number of Azerbaijani refugees gradually reached 2 million people. This is a call to make the Karabakh conflict impede the peaceful development of the region in the 21st century.